Hey, everybody. Sorry, I'm back. I had an emergency I had to handle real quick as soon as I went live. But I am back. It's been handled. Once again, uh, how's everybody doing on this Sunday night? Welcome to the Bizarre and the Unknown. I'm your host, E.D. Testerman. I'm an author, researcher, and a veteran single daddy. Um, Couple real quick notes before I get started. So, if you guys caught my live last night, the campfire chats with Eric and guest, if you watched it live or you caught it later on, I have an update on something on there. So, when the spirit that I was talking to said car, and I could be wrong, but this is my theory. When it said car, I realized just a little bit ago that I had left some food out in the truck. I borrowed my brother's truck, and I had left some food out there. So that could be what it was talking about. I don't know. I just know it's quite a bit of a coincidence. So that was kind of cool. And for those of you who didn't catch the campfire episode yesterday, you can watch the full show. Um, it was awesome. It was fun. End up having a spirit talking to me through EVP. I was kind of showing off some of the stuff I'd caught while here at the house, and caught someone talking to me. So it was kind of fun. Now today's show, the Bermuda Triangle. I kind of want to. I want to have to stick to my notes. There is so much to cover on here that I've got a couple pages of notes that I typed up. And that also being said, like I said yesterday, and I'll say it again today, let's keep William Nighthawk and D.A. Roberts in our prayers. They're going through some medical stuff right now. It'd be great to have them come back on the shows. I'll display their YouTube channels later on. So let's keep them in our prayers, our thoughts, and our minds as they're dealing with what they're dealing with. And I also want to take a moment to all you new subscribers to the Bizarre and the Unknown channel. Thank you very much for joining. It is an honor to have you on here, and I hope I can keep you entertained with the information that I look up. So, with that being said, let's jump right into her. So, the Bermuda Triangle, or what is the Bermuda Triangle? And what is it that you guys think of when you think of the Bermuda Triangle? And we're going to kind of hit, there's a lot of stuff on here. A lot of stuff. I picked out some of the better known stuff, but I do list a lot of other stuff on here. The Bermuda Triangle is a section of the North Atlantic Ocean or in which strange events and paranormal activity occur. All manner of bizarre and scary tales exist about the Bermuda Triangle, including those of alien abductions. And let me hop over here real quick. I forgot to set that up. And the underwater city of Atlantis. Uh, the Bermuda Triangle's spooky reputation is due to a notable number of ships and airplanes that have disappeared while traveling through the triangle. And which, if you're going through there, you're going to see stuff like this all the time. There is many different aircraft that came up missing, many different ships that came up missing or sank. This is stuff that's not going to be uncommon for you to find there. Um, for centuries, the island of Bermuda and the oceanic area around it was a source of wonder and dread for explorers. And for example, Christopher Columbus wrote about seeing strange lights and other weird things while sailing near the island. It is also a popular theory that William Shakespeare's The Tempest was inspired by a shipwreck that occurred near the island of Bermuda. Clearly, the seas of Bermuda have been a weird and uh, has been weirding people out for a very long time. According to most of your sources, the name Bermuda Triangle was coined by author Vincent Gaddis, who used a name in a 1964 magazine article, "The Deadly Bermuda Triangle." And it was written about the mysterious disappearances in the water near Bermuda. According to the New York Times, other names that have been used to refer to the Bermuda Triangle or the area it encompasses includes the Devil's Triangle, Limbo of the Lost, Twilight Zone, and Hoodoo Sea. So, I mean, that's a few of the names. The one that it's the actual name of it is the Devil's Triangle. That is what it's been known for a long time. I've also noticed it was called the Devil's Sea quite a bit too. So Bermuda Triangle is a fairly new name for it. The kraken-like creature is a sea monster that has been reported in the triangle on many occasions. Um, there have been reports of ranging from 30 feet to 150 feet. There's sizes which suggest they're ship sinking sizes. Man, that was a tongue twister for me for some reason. Um, there are like 11 more locations around the world that are similar to the Devil's Triangle. Looking at the locations, there are six above the equator, six below it. The other 11 locations are um, Algerian megaliths, Mohenjo-Daro, the Dragon's Triangle, the Harukula volcano, Easter Island, the South Atlantic anomaly, the Great Zimbabwe, which that's going to be an interesting one, um, the Wharton Basin, the Loyalty Islands, the North Pole, and the South Pole. So these are the other 11 locations that are very, very similar to the Bermuda Triangle. Um, it's amazing what you can actually find out, which I'll end up doing shows on them because they're so interesting. I'll end up doing shows on them in the future too. I mean, I can't do one just on the Bermuda and not do one on them as well. Um, each has a similar experiences and they all line up perfectly with each other. The theory is they lined up that way as a means for portaling from one location to another. Their stories range from alien portals, unexpected storms, creatures, paranormal, supernatural. They are also known for shipwrecks and planes disappearing as well. So, a lot of similarities between these other places and the Bermuda Triangle. So, I want to talk about some of these shipwrecks that goes on. One of the most famous ones is probably the USS Pickering. In 1799 and early 1800s, and this is, I believe, if I remember correctly, one of the oldest ones. She was part of the Commodore Barry's squadron in the West Indies. Lieutenant Edward uh, Preble commanded the Pickering from January through June of 1799, when he was promoted to captain and took command of the frigate Essex. So Pickering was uh, permanently transferred to the Navy on the 20th of May and redesignated USS Pickering. Uh, or Master Commandant Benjamin Hiller. Uh, Hiller. Uh, the with the U.S. Navy assumed command in June and continued command of the ship for its final years. Under Hiller's command, Pickering fought a notable engagement with a French privateer, and I'm going to mess this up to y'all because I don't speak French. El Equipped Conquist on 18 October of 1799. The Frenchman was well fitted out and manned. So basically, I mean, he was heavily armed. He was heavily armed, and should have been able to capture Pickering easily. While the French ship carried 14 9-pounders, 4 6-pounders, and a crew of 250, the American cutter had only 14 4-pounders and 70 men. After a 9-hour battle, however, the French ship was forced to sunder. Pickering continued to cruise in the West Indies, and before he returned to the United States, he captured 4 French privateers, including Velasquez, Atalanta, El Active, and Fly, and recaptured the American merchant ship Portland. So, I mean, you see an extensive history with this ship here. Wharton Basin, Pickering departed from Boston on 10 June 1800, ordered to join Commodore Thomas Toroxton's squadron on the Guadalupe station in the West Indies. She sailed from Newcastle, Delaware on 20 August and was never heard from again. She is presumed to have been lost with all hands in a gale storm in September, but this was never proven. This storm is always thought to have sunk the USS Insurgent, which likewise vanished without a trace. The exact cause of the cutter's disappearance remains a mystery. So, I mean, here you're getting one of the first reports of a ship disappearing in the Bermuda Triangle. The next one we're going to talk about is the USS Wasp. The USS Wasp was a sloop of war. In the 18th century and most of the 19th century, a sloop of war in the Royal Navy was a warship with a single gun deck that carried up to 18 cannons. That rating system covered all vessels with 20 guns. That served the United States Navy in 1814 during the War of 1812. So that's how long the Wasp was in service. She was the 5th United States Navy ship to carry the name. She carried out 2 successful raiding voyages against British trading during the summer of 1814, in the course of which she fought and defeated 2 British brig sloops. Wasp was lost, cause unknown, in the Atlantic in early autumn of 1814. So, I mean, that's another just disappeared without a trace, not knowing what happened. The USS Wildcat. The USS Wildcat was a 2-master schooner of 48 tons and was part of the U.S. Naval Fleet and part of the West Indies Squadron that sailed the Caribbean to subdue the occurrence of pirate raids on merchant ships that had increased to almost 3,000 by the early 1820s. So, I mean, that stands the reason why we had so many ships disappear in the Bermudas, because during that time was a lot of piracy going on. So, man, they were hitting ships left and right, and we got tired of it, and we mounted up a fleet. So, I mean, a lot of these ships just disappeared during that time. It stands to reason. I mean, you're going in the area that everybody's scared of. So, what's the best thing to do? Well, go out there and take them to a place that they don't want to go. The Rosalie is another famous one. London Times reported her as being found derelict in the Bahamas. She was found with nobody. I mean, everything was intact. Everything was fine. Even the felines, the the fowl. I mean, every animal on that ship was still alive, but the people were gone. Um, the article for the 6th of November is dated August 27th, 1840, and the state she was discovered in to be completely abandoned. The greater part of her sails were set, and she did not appear to have sustained any damage. The okay, that's what we're getting. We was talking about a little bit ago. The cargo comprised of wine, fruits, silks, and etc. Was a very considerable value and was in the most perfect condition. So, I mean, that tells you right there that pirates did not take this ship. They were not hit by any kind of enemy. They were not set upon by pirates or nobody. So that's kind of interesting on that. Um, the captain's papers were all secure in the proper place. Another reason why you can tell it wasn't an enemy who done it. Um, the only living things found aboard were a cat, some fowl, and several canaries, half dead with hunger. So I mean, they've been gone for a while before they were found. It's kind of interesting how the cat didn't figure out how to get into them canaries or fowls, though. Um, the cabins of the officers and the passengers were elegantly furnished, and everything indicated they had only recently been deserted. In one of them were found several articles belonging to a lady's toilet, together with a number of ladies' wearing apparel thrown hastily aside, but not a human being was to be found on board. She was very large, recently built, and called the Rosalie. So that is strange in itself because there's no attack of any kind of human creature, anything. I mean, no damage. Everything was perfect. The humans just vanished. I mean, they were gone. So, I mean, could they have been portaled? Could they have been abducted by aliens? I mean, this is the theories that some of the people come up with would happen with the passenger or the attendants of the Rosalie. So it's quite possible with everything that happens out there. I can't deny either one of those possibilities. I mean, at all 12 of them locations I talked about that, including which is the Bermuda Triangle and 11 others, they all have such a strange energy about them. So, I mean, the possibility of portals being portal to another dimension, another location, another time, it's well in that realm of possibility. Um, Ellen Austin, according to legend, a sailing ship, the Ellen Austin, found a derelict vessel and placed a crew to sail the vessel to port. There's another abandoned vessel right there. Um, Two versions of what happened to the vessel are: the vessel was either lost in a storm or was found without a crew. I'm leaning more towards it was probably found without a crew, especially considering nobody was on there and they sent a crew over to sail her back. That tells you there that, well, if it was a storm, why didn't it flip when all the crew members were gone? Because the crew could have hid below and got away from the storm. And even the crew that was below should have survived. So, hmm, um, forgot where I was here for a second. Lawrence David Cush, author of the Bermuda Triangle Mystery Solved, found no mention in the 1880 or 1891 newspaper of the alleged incident. He did. I lost my sorry, I had to get a drink. Trace the legend back to Rupert Gould, I think is how you say that. The Stargazer Talks, published in 1943. The Ellen Austin did exist. A check from Lloyd's of London records provide the existence of Meta. Built in 1854, and that in 1880, Meta was renamed Ellen Austin. There are no casualty listings for this vessel or any vessel at that time. That would suggest a large number of missing men were placed on board a derelict ship that later disappeared. Although one website includes an alleged derelict vessel incident, it finds that Rupert Gould, I think is I'm going to mess that name up, about the legend of the on radio in the 1930s. Likewise, the website traces the derelict story to a June 1906 newspaper story, which claims the derelict ship was took place in 1891. However, the 1906 story does not give a reference of where the story came from. So, I mean, that's interesting because that fits with the Rosalie so well, so very well. So, the possibility of them being abducted, portaled, whatever. I mean, then again, I mean, you also got you want to go on the mythological or folklore. Who's to say sirens didn't call them, off the ship? They sang their song and they fell from the ship. That is possible. I mean, I can't dispute that. I mean, there's stories of stuff like that happening all over. So, what's to say there wasn't sirens in the waters of Bermuda? It's possible. I mean, I can't say for sure, obviously. The next one, this is going to be the last ship that I get in depth on. The rest I'm going to talk about is just notations of what happened. So the USS Cyclops, which is a fairly recent one, because this took place around early 1900s. One of the mysteries of the war is the disappearance of the collar USS Cyclops. Prior to World War One, the collier supported U.S. warships in European waters off the Atlantic seaboard and in the Caribbean as a unit of the Naval Auxiliary Force. I forgot to talk. In early March 1918, while returning from a voyage to Brazil, the Cyclops disappeared with all hands. Numerous ships sailed to locate the Cyclops, as she was thought to have been sunk by a German submarine. Her wreck was never found, and the cause of her loss remains unknown. So, I mean, there you got a complete ship, which is not the first. There's many stories of that happening, but I mean, there you go. There's a U.S. Navy ship during the World War One time frame that just completely disappeared. And here's some of the other reports. I didn't go in depth because, like I said, there's so many of this stuff. In 31 January 1921, Carol A. Deering, five-mast schooner, captained by W.B. Wormell, found aground and abandoned at Diamond Shoals near Cape. I'm going to mess this up. Hatteras, North Carolina. December 1st, 1925. SS, I'm going to mess this up too. Cotopaxi, having departed Charleston, South Carolina 2 days earlier, bound for Havana, Cuba, radioed a distress call reporting that the ship was sinking. She was officially listed as overdue on the 31st of December in 1985. An unknown shipwreck was found off of St. Augustine, Florida in 2020. It was identified as the remains of the Cotopaxi. So they finally found it. I mean, that's quite a bit of years later. So you got from 1925, um, which is funny that it took them from 1985 to 1985 to list it as overdue. I mean, that is 60 years since it disappeared before anybody reported overdue. Tells you something more is going on, and why else would the government wait that long? But I mean, it's cool that 15 years later they found it, though. I mean, that is awesome. In 1941, the USS Portus, it's an AC-9, lost with all 58 persons on board in the heavy seas, having departed St. Thomas and Virginia Islands with a cargo of, what the heck is that word? Bauxite. I'm going to mess that one up. On the 23rd of November. The following month, her sister ship, the USS Nearest, an AC-10, was lost with all 61 on board, having also departed St. Thomas with a cargo of the same stuff. On 10 December, according to research by Rear Admiral George Van Duras, U.S. Navy, who was familiar with these types of ships from their service in the U.S. Navy, the acidic coal cargo would seriously erode the longitudinal support beams, making these aging and poorly constructed colliers extremely vulnerable to break in heavy seas. They were both sister ships of the USS Cyclops, which makes sense because I remember seeing a show on the Cyclops one time. And they done a model, and when the ship came up and came back down, it was high centered. It actually snapped in half. The model did. So I mean that would stand as a good possibility because that area is known for unexpected, sporadic, frequent storms. I mean, that is part of Hurricane Alley. So that is a very good possibility to what happened to him. In 1958, the Revanche, a 43-foot racing yawl, was lost with owner Harvey Conover and four other aboard between Key West and Miami in a hurricane. The only trace found was the Revanche's 14-foot skiff near Jupiter, Florida. So, I mean, that had storms, dude. And what's causing all these storms? I mean, could it be the barometric pressure? Could it be the, sea levels? I mean, there's so many things that could cause the storms. It doesn't take much in a lot of cases, it's just temperature change. In 1963, SS Marine Slaughter Queen lost with 39 crew, having departed Belmont, Texas on the 2nd of February with a cargo of 15,260 tons of sulfur. Dude, that's a lot of sulfur. We want a lot of match around that stuff. She was last heard from on the 4th of February when she was in rough, nearly flowing seas of 16 footers with northerly winds at 25 to 46 knots and listed as missing 2 days later. The U.S. Coast Guard subsequently determined that the ship was unsafe and not seaworthy and never should have sailed. The final report suggested four causes of the disaster, all due to poor design and maintenance of the ship. So you got one that they didn't report missing for 60 years, and then one they report missing in 2 days. Call me crazy, but that's kind of interesting why they would do something like that. In 1960, in the 22nd December 1967, Miami hotel owner and yachtsman Dan Burke set out on his cabin cruiser Witchcraft, which was a priest named Witchcraft with a priest named Patrick Horgan. The ship was taken 1 mile off of Miami coastline so that Burke and Horgan could view the Christmas lights visible from the shore. That night, Burke radioed a distress call to the Coast Guard, informing them that a boat's propeller had struck something underwater and that the vessel would need to be towed in. The Coast Guard requested that he send a flare in roughly 20 minutes so that the boat could be more easily located. The official who received the call reported later that Burrock did not seem to be concerned about the witchcraft. A boat that Burrock had fitted with a special flotation device in its hull. When the Coast Guard arrived at the location from which Burrock had called, he and Horgan and the witchcraft were nowhere to be found. Over the following days, a search conducted over hundreds of square miles of ocean, but the boat and its passengers were never found. So that's kind of interesting how they strike something radio in, which is another common thing that happens, and there's not a single trace of them to be found. Um, in late July of 2015, two 14-year-old boys, Austin Stephanos and Perry Cohen, went out on a fishing trip in their 19-foot boat. Despite the 15,000 square nautical mile wide search for the from the by the Coast Guard, the pair's boat was never found. A year later, off the coast of Bermuda, but the oh, sorry, I read that wrong. Wide search by the Coast Guard. The pair's boat was found a year later off the coast of Bermuda, but the boys were never seen again. I mean, that's a sad deal there. Now, some of you may not know, but there is actually land disappearances in the Devil's Triangle. And here's a couple of them here. Great Isaac Lighthouse in the this is one here. Sorry, um, is a lighthouse on the small Bermuda island of Great Isaac's Cay. Erected in 1859, it is located about 20 miles northeast of the Bimini Island, and accessible only by boat. The lighthouse stands about 151 foot tall. On 4 August 1969, the station was discovered to have been abandoned by its two keepers, who were never found. Many believers in the Bermuda Triangle claim that the keepers were the two victims lost in the mysterious force. However, the hurricane recorded from 1969 indicates that Hurricane Ann, the first hurricane of 1969, on 1 to 2 August, passed close enough to the Great Isaac Island to cause dangerous weather for the tiny rock island. But by the 4th of August, the hurricane was well into the Atlantic. So I mean that's interesting there. I mean these guys live in Hurricane Alley. They're lighthouse people. They know what to do during hurricane. The lighthouse was fine, but the people were gone. So I mean it's interesting on stuff like that, and this is other common reports that happen in areas just like this. Let's get in some of the aviation stuff. Um, this is probably one of the most popular ones right here, and this is Flight 19. Um, very sad deal, which led into a lot more that happened during the search for this squadron, which we'll get into on this. Very sad deal. Uh, at 14 dead 100 hours on 5 December 1945, a group of 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers took off from the U.S. Naval Air Station, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, for a routine over the water navigational training flight. The flight leader in charge of the unit, dubbed Flight 19, was the U.S. Navy Lieutenant Charles Carroll Taylor, who had uh, uh, who had amassed some 50 or 2,500 flight hours in addition to the completion of a combat tour in the Pacific theater during World War II. Taylor and his crew of 13 airmen, some trainee pilots, were to execute a navigation problem number one, which was the training exercise that they were doing. The weather in the area to be covered by the training flight appeared fairly standard, save for a few scattered showers. Visibility and wind speeds were considered to be normal for a training exercise. And sorry, I thought I seen the red light on. I thought my microphone went off for a second. Um, Let me get back here to where I was. The uh, the visibility and winds were considered to be normal for training exercises of this nature. The beginning of the exercise was just that normal. Taylor and his crew made it easily to hen and chicken shoals where bombs were dropped according to plan sometime around 1430 hours. At 1500 hours, a recording shows that one of the student pilots in the flight requested he was permitted to drop his plane's last bomb. Um, Flight 19 turned and began to make its way towards the second leg of the exercise, and things looked to turn for the strange from that point on. A radio message was intercepted from the flight at around 1600 hours, recording a conversation likely between Taylor and the pilot of one of the other planes. On the recording, one of the student pilots was asked by the crewman, "Was his compass reading?" This to which the pilot replied, "I don't know where we are." So this starts showing a lot of interesting stuff that happens up, electrical stuff that happens up in the atmosphere above the triangle. "We must have gotten lost after last turn." On the same recording, Lieutenant Taylor can be heard saying, "Both my compasses are out, and I am trying to find Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I am over land, but it's broken. I am sure I'm seeing the keys, but I don't know for how far down, and I don't know how to get to Fort Lauderdale." So you're starting to hear the panic in these guys' voices. I mean, in these Taylor was a experienced pilot. Soon after, one of the planes in the flight called into the NAS Fort Lauderdale to report that they were lost. Operators at the NAS tried many suggestions, from switching radio frequencies to search and rescue frequencies to imploring Taylor to turn on his YG, the IFF transmitter, so that his location could be triangulated. For whatever reason, these attempts were ignored by Taylor and other pilots of Flight 19. In one of these recordings, a member of the flight can be heard uh, exclaiming, "Damn it, if we could just fly west, we could get home. Head west, damn it." Taylor ordered the flight east. By this time, weather conditions in the area had deteriorated, and the sun had set. A handful of land-based radio stations were able to triangulate 19's position and or as being somewhere north of the Bahamas and significantly off the coast of Florida. Despite this knowledge, the flight's location was not reported properly to Naval Air Traffic Control personnel at NAS Fort Lauderdale. In 1820, the last message from Flight 19 was received. In this recording, Taylor was heard saying, "All planes close up tight. We'll all have to ditch unless landfall. When the first plane drops below 10 gallons, we all go down together." I mean, that's some powerful stuff right there. I'm sorry, man. I know his feeling. Knowing that the plane's fuel would run out at 2000 hours, a search and rescue effort was launched to locate the flight and its crew at around 1800 hours. that evening, just before the last message was received, surface vessels, both military and merchant, were notified of the disappearance of the two consolidated BPM mariners flying boats, is what they are, were diverted diverted from their original training flights to participate in the square pattern search in an attempt to locate the trace of Flight 19. So this is where I'm going to pick up because it wasn't just Flight 19 that disappeared that day. This next set is the one that did also, and they were part of the search party that was looking for him. BPM 5. One of these planes, BPM 5, Bureau number 59225, took off from Nass Banna River in Brevard County, Florida, in 1920 or at 192700 hours, carrying a crew of 13 personnel. The plane called in a routine message a few minutes later, but disappeared off the radar entirely. Within around 20 minutes of takeoff that night, a merchant ship off the coast of Fort Lauderdale reported seeing a burst of flames shortly before passing through an oil slick in the same vicinity where the missing BPM had dropped off the radar. Um, which I find this interesting when it talks about that because there has actually been many reports of equipment failure, radio, radar, and stuff like that, all throughout the Bermuda Triangle and U.S. occupation there. Tons of that stuff happens all the time. At daybreak the following day, the Navy launched an even larger rescue effort. Now having to search for a total of 6 downed aircraft, the efforts lasted around 5 days, during which 300,000 square miles were combined for any sign of plane or men working abroad or working aboard them. Sorry, I gotta get a drink. Theories surrounding these disappearances are varied, ranging from alien abductions to secret government experiences to the fan favorite Bermuda Triangle. The official account of the events on 5 December 1945 suggests that Lieutenant Taylor mistook his location, believing he was flying over the Florida Keys and the Gulf of Mexico armed with broken compasses. He was unable to determine his true location. Eventually, Taylor and his airmen ran out of fuel, forcing them to down their planes and succumb to the elements. The disappearance of BPM 5 is most often attributed to an explosion, as their particular model of plane was prone to such accidents. Whatever the cause may be, not a single trace of them were ever found. So, I mean, yes, you had oil slicks on the BPM. So, given that, you should have been able to find something. You should have been able to follow them oil slicks to find something. But when there's not a single trace, starts making it to raise an eyebrow. So this is just a list of some more aircraft lost. I didn't go in depth on these. On 3 July 1947, a Douglas C-54 crashed off the Florida coast after the pilot lost control in turbulence. 30 January 1948, Alvaro Tudor GAHNP Star Tiger lost with 6 crew and 27 passengers en route from Santa Maria Airport in the Azores to Kinley Field, Bermuda. 28 December 1948, Douglas, DC, NC 16002, lost with 3 crew and 36 passengers en route to San Juan, Puerto Rico to Miami, Florida. 17 January 1949, Alvaro Tudor AGRE Star Aerial lost with 7 crew and 13 passengers en route from Kindley Field, Bermuda to Kingston Airport, Jamaica. That's the one I was thinking of. I was trying to think of a minute ago. These Star Aerials, it was very interesting about them because one disappeared during a radio and radar malfunction. Just a lot of weird electronic stuff happened. And then almost a year to the day, same type of aircraft disappeared. Same time, same location. Goes right back to the same bat time, same bat channel. It's interesting how all that. It's got to be more than a coincidence on that. 9 June 1965, a USAF C-119 flying boxcar of the 440th Troop Carrier Wings went missing between Florida and Grand Turk Island. The last call from a plane came from a point just north of Crooked Island, Bahamas, and 177 miles from Grand Turk Island. On 18 June 1965, debris from this plane was found on the beach of Gold Rock Cay, just off the northeastern shore of Acklands Island. So, I mean, that was pretty obvious it crashed. Doesn't say anything if it found any remains of people, though. Which, I mean, did it crash because they were portaled or abducted? Or is it just equipment failure? But there ain't much on that one. 6 December 1965, Private uh, ERCO or Coop FO1 lost its pilot and one passenger en route from Fort Lauderdale to Grand Bahamas Island. 20 June 2005, a Piper PA-23 disappeared between Treasure Cay Island, Bahamas, and Fort Pierce, Florida. There were 3 people on board. 23 February 2017, Turkish Airlines flight TK-183 and Airbus A33 or A330 TAC 200 was forced to change its direction from Havana, Cuba to Washington Dulles Airport after some mechanical and electrical problems occurred over the triangle. So right there, you're right back into another report of electrical stuff that was happening with aircraft, on different occasions here. Um, 15 May 2017, a private MU TAC 2B aircraft was at 24,000 feet when it vanished from radar and radio contact with air traffic controllers in the Miami. The plane wreckage was found later. Oh, that wasn't the one I was thinking of. So, I mean, that's it right there. Another incident where radar and radio, for some reason, messed up, or something happened, and bam, caused a disappearance. So, I mean, that's just that's just some of the stuff that happens in the Bermuda's triangles. I mean, it's all similar. I mean, these reports go back, hundreds of years now. I mean, the locals even called it the Devil's Triangle. So, I mean, this is something that's not new. And, I am definitely going to have to do a story on them other locations. And it's cool how 6 of those locations are above the equator, 6 of them locations are below the equator, and they're all perfectly aligned. I mean, there is something to that. Which, I mean, I knew about a few of them, and when I was younger and done research on that, I was always told it was aligned with the energies of the planet. Of course, I heard about portaling back then too, but it was more of trying to remember something with the gravitational and the pull of the Earth, the gravitation's Earth in that area being negative or something like that. I can't remember. It's been a long time, but I definitely want to look more into those. You got, like I said earlier, you got the um, where did they go? The megaliths, the Algerian megaliths, the Mohenjo Daro, the Dragon's Tail, which is weird. If Elsie Sue listens to this later on, two of these are one on one side of Australia, one on the other side of Australia. Australia's jack, man. They're caught in between two of them, two locations of planet Earth having PMS. Australia's right in the middle of them. This Harakula volcano is the one in Hawaii. That was an interesting one. Uh, Easter Island, which Easter Island is surrounded by a lot of mystery. The South Atlantic anomaly, that's one I didn't know about. I'm definitely, and same as this Great Zimbabwe. This Great Zimbabwe apparently was a city in Zimbabwe that all of its inhabitants vanished without a single trace. I mean, it's just interesting. Now, that one there, I'm kind of kicking around doing a show on next. The Wharton Basin, I've heard very little about it, but I don't remember, so I'm going to have to get touched up on that. Loyalty Islands is another one like that. I've heard a lot of stuff about the North Pole and of the South Pole. I mean, you got to think about South Pole alone. Look how many pyramids are in the South Pole alone that dwarf the Great Pyramids of Giza. So all these would be, I mean, interesting stuff to do on. I really want to do some research on them. I mean, that Great Zimbabwe has really caught my interest. I mean, that's a big one. The Dragon Tails over in Japan, but all these would be fun to do. I mean, even the Hawaiian volcano one, what happens there with the disappearance of just pure vanish and other electrical stuff that happens. Yeah, they'll be fun. I'll do shows on them eventually. Before I forget, next Sunday I will not have a show. I'll be watching the Super Bowl with family. I'll do another campfire chats with Eric and guest on Saturday. If y'all missed that, dude, you got to check that out. You got to check out yesterday's show. I was kind of showing off some recordings that I caught, some EVPs that I caught here at the house. And all of a sudden, we started having a live EVP going on. And it blew my mind because it got me off guard. 'Cause I was like, I was not planning on something like that happen. I was just showing something off, and all of a sudden, something was talking to me. So you'll be able to catch that on that live if you watch it again. That's yesterday's campfire chats with Eric and guest. But also, you want to look up. I did do a digital recording because I could not record with that EVP. So I turned on my digital recording and was recording a lot of that. I couldn't have picked up. I didn't pick up a whole lot of anything extra, not anything definitive. If you guys listen to it and you find something, let me know. I mean, I think that'd be awesome. But I'm probably. I mean, if you guys like that when I'm doing that campfire show like that, let me know. I have no issue with setting up that EVP and doing that again. I thought that was entertaining. I mean, it blew my mind because I was not expecting something like that. I was just kind of showing some of the things that I do here and what I catch here. But it was fun, and we had a lot of fun. Um, but if there's any other kind of shows you want me to do some research on and talk about, feel free to let me know. Now, the Sunday after the Super Bowl, Jesus Payon will be back on, and we'll be talking about the Giants and whatever else comes to our mind during that time there. Um, I'm trying to pick out a good name for that show. I don't know if I want to call it Giants Part Two, or if I just want to call it, something else. I haven't decided yet, but I mean, it'd be fun. It was such a joy having him on the show. during the Giants. That man has got a wealth of knowledge. I'm getting my new office set up here. I was up till late this morning getting everything moved and put in here. Not done yet. There's still a lot to do. My daughter still has to clean a lot out of this room. And I've got some serious painting and other stuff that can be done, but I've got it set up good enough for do a show for now. So I'm hoping the sound's better. I'm hoping a lot of stuff is better. I'm trying some different stuff with this LEDs. I want to try this red because it seemed to bring out my banner quite a bit with the red versus the other stuff. But I mean, I've got all different kinds of stuff I can do on here. And I mean, that was kind of cool too. Didn't bring my banner out a whole lot. But, for the campfire ones, I was thinking something like, oh, I missed it. Anyways, trying to do something weird. Get her. Get her. Yeah, get her. You let her know. You let her know, Snow. But my daughter's at the window here trying to act like she has no common sense. But and it's making Snow go nuts. But I mean, you can do different stuff with this trap. So I mean, I don't know. It'll be fun to do. But for those of you who catch this later, if you got any stories you want me to talk about, encounters with anything paranormal, supernatural, mythological, folklore, cryptid, email me here. Stope 9. Email me here. I would love to do it. I'll keep you anonymous if you want to be anonymous. Please remember to hit like, subscribe, and the notification button. I love doing this stuff with you guys. You can find my books on Amazon and on different Audible stations. I've got some that's fixing to come out more on Audible. I did a short show today. Man, that is freaking me out on that thing. When I was doing some editing, I'd done a live earlier until I had to get off. I had a phone call. But you can just find my books all there. I like doing stuff. Every now and then I'll hop on and do a live just when I'm editing. You guys get a chance, get on YouTube, follow D.A. Roberts at DNX Machina. Man is a wealth of knowledge. Also get on YouTube and follow William Nighthawk. Right down there at the bottom is his YouTube channel. Another man's wealth of information. So I'm going to go ahead and close this down because I want to get ready to go to bed. I got to be up at 05 in the morning. So I'm going to read the ending quote that I made. There comes a time when the warrior falls. They leave this realm and will be missed by all. Raise a glass and keep them in your heart. They have kept this realm safe and performed their part. Look to your veterans, your active duty, your EMTs, and your blue line. What they do or have done was walk that fine line. When the demon comes calling on your soul, they will be there to save us all. Hold them in your prayers, for they are deserving. They all have served or are serving. So everybody, keep your veterans and first responders in your thoughts and your prayers. Once again, thank you for coming on tonight. I appreciate it. And if you catch this later, thank you so much for catching it. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll be getting another show done here soon. So you guys be blessed, and peace to you all.